and I'm bleeding all over my guitar. And then my hands are going like this, so now I'm spreading it all the way up and down the neck of the guitar. But I'm not stopping. I'm like, oh, now I'm really pissed, I'm playing. And then I start singing backing vocals and accidentally bump into Erie real quick. I go over and I'm singing over Glenn's shoulder and bumping it. So I'm leaving 6-string blood marks on everybody's arms. And they thought I was like on speed or something. I was like, it's just Baltimore, Battle of the Bands, rock out with your cock out show. That's all it was, right? And I was highly motivated because I was pissed and it was late. Now I broke my fingernail off. And, but we kept going. But there was a little tension between the singer and me, from day one. Long story short, everybody says thanks. Rubin says, hey, you gotta go, let's go down the village and get some pizza. So I follow him down to Greenwich Village. We get some pizza, and he goes, follow me, I'm gonna stop in the studio. So we go in, we walk down this narrow stairway, and I'm starting to see purple velvet carpeting, tie-dye wallpaper, platinum albums, Fender Stratocasters, and all of a sudden, I could feel my heart stop. I realized where I was. I was in Jimi Hendrix's studio, Electric Ladyland studio. So Rick was in there with a band recording, and he just wanted to hang out and figure out who I was and if I was really nuts or, what my story was. And we were watching this speed metal band that he was trying to sign from Epic or EMI. And they had this cool song called Rain and Blood. Right? So it was Slayer. And so we're watching this band, we're going, yeah, that's pretty fast. And I heard these sounds coming, and I said, what's that? There was this loud rock coming from across the hall. He said, oh, that's the band that's tracking in there. You want to go and check it out? I was like, yeah. He said, you ever been in like a studio? I was like, no. And they had all this British vintage Neve stuff. So Hendrix flew the equipment over from London, and they built the building around the equipment in the days, because the boards were, they were like 20 feet wide and they weighed like 950 pounds or something like that. So they had to fly them in and wire the whole building, then put the floor and the walls up and all that kind of stuff back in the day. And the sound was so clear and so loud, I was sitting behind the board and my hair was going poof, poof, ba-da-da. So the kick drum was making my hair blow back, but there was no distortion. I'm like, what is that? He goes, that's called clean power. I said, I think I'm addicted. And you'll never guess who the band was. They did a song called Love Removal Machine.
Oh, yeah.
So the Cult was recording their first album with Rick Rubin and Run DMC and Aerosmith, right? That collaboration had just been 6 months before that. So LL Cool J was on the charts. Public Enemy hadn't even started yet. So that gives you an idea of what was going on at the time. And I like to tell the story. First recording experience with Rick, he was doing a movie soundtrack in LA for a movie called Less Than Zero.
Yeah.
And he would not come back to New York so we could get in the studio. It took him forever, and he was getting behind schedule. And finally Glenn called him up and said, Rick, man, the guys are chomping at the bit. When are you coming back? He said, well, I need like 3 more songs for this, this movie. And he's like, you guys want to play on it? We're like, yeah, get your ass back here. So we did 2 songs. Glenn wrote a song with Roy Orbison, You and Me, Less Than Zero. And there are a couple other ones, Cold Rain, that didn't make it on the record. But so we were actually the Power and Fury Orchestra behind the soundtrack, and we got to be the players behind Roy Orbison and Glenn. So my first experience was not even an album; it was a movie that I was working on. And then finally he was there, and we started working before Christmas. And people wonder what was it like to work with Rick Rubin in the studio. They would take extended breaks to go watch the WWF wrestling at Madison Square Garden in the middle of a session. And then they would come back and want to get to work. So Twisted Cane, we did 45 takes of Twisted Cane, and like 61 of Mother or something like that. And all this stuff, and all of it was just to get the drum sounds together. And so we spent a week or 10 days in there, wrote for Christmas, came back, we scrapped the whole session, started over. I know, so that was the beginning, but we had some amazing engineers. The record company was still Def Jam at the time, but we could see that Russell and Rick were gonna split. They were college roommates at NYU when they started producing hip hop and R&B acts and all that kind of stuff. So we finally got into the studio and we got the word from the rep. I still didn't have a stage name yet. Chuck Biscuits and I would sit around and drink pots of coffee and look at baby name books. Yeah. Like John Damien, John Evil, John Black, Jack Black. Yeah, so over months and months and months and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like John Von Christ popped out. And we did that for a while. And then it was like, well, there's already an Erie Von. We can't have two Vons in the same band, not if they're not related. So we did all that. And I was out of town when the artwork came in, and I got a phone call. Oh, by the way, you're John Christ now. So stop using your real name. Get rid of anything clothing that's not black. You know, so, and then the old drummer, the old Samhain, sued because the band was still Samhain at the time. And we were going to keep it that way for a while, but with the new record deal and all this kind of stuff, we wanted to eliminate any future claims from past claims. Now I understand why they were suing. I didn't at the time. But so we changed the name to Danzig, and Rick was like, I like it. It's got a Z in it. Danzig. That's cool. That's cool, man, cool. So we did the first Danzig record. Next disappointment was Chuck and I heard it the first time and we're like, that sounds like shit. All that money and work and that's it? I mean, the snare drum's distorted, the guitar, there's no delay, reverb, there's that. It's just like, what the heck? But the vocals were incredible. The screams on that, his intensity, you know, and then Chuck's drumming, and it came together. And the idea was we got 4 people from all different parts of the country, different energies, and Rick was just trying to tame it for a minute, get a starting point. But the timing was perfect because groups like Def Leppard and White Snake and Metallica, they had these massive sounds and all this processing, and ours was stripped down and just in your face raw. And some people kind of like that. And by the beginning of our second tour, we started taking bets on which song in the set, The Barricade, was going to go down.
Oh my God.
So I was fortunate. I was 21 when I got into it, and Glenn and Erie had done all the work building up the fan base before I got there. So I just had to be ready. I wasn't ready for that, you know. I never had so many beers and beer cans and trash cans and everything else thrown at me while I was playing. And I mean, you know, the female underwear and other stuff didn't come for a few more years, I'm just saying. You know. And back in the day, it was pre-goth, but a lot of the punk rock folks, I mean, it was incredibly inclusive because you couldn't tell one from the next. It was all like an extension of each other. But on one hand, it was so cool because if you had black jeans, a chain on your wallet, and some Doc Martens, and black fingernails, and black eye makeup, you were home. It's like, welcome home, here's your family, you know.